What's up, everyone? Hope everyone's doing good. Another lovely day. It's like a cloudy, like rainy, cloudy day today. This is gonna be a quick video on my thoughts on the election. So today we have New York City primary elections going on. I don't know if I should look. If I'm speaking to you guys, I'm looking at the camera, right? I'm trying to have more eye contact. Someone didn't have anything valuable to really say in my last video, but that is a good thing, right? Because you want to be more interactive. And that's a valid, that's a valid point I'll acknowledge, but I don't know. They didn't have anything substantive outside of that. I don't know why. Anyways, these are my quick thoughts on the election coming up, or the election today. So today we have New York State primaries, mayoral election, also some other like district attorney, judge, delegates or jurors, or like a whole comptroller, some other local positions as well that we have for this election today. And I just want to give my ideas of who I think is going to win. Now, we're most likely the mayor of New York in 2020, by the end of this, is going to be a Democrat. Most people who are Republicans, Republicans are not winning a mayoral election in New York. That's irrelevant. That's not happening. And the top two candidates that they have right now have very low funding. They don't really have much support. And for the most part, Republicans have looked at that for a long time as a dud. You're not going to spend so much time or put so much capital behind someone or behind a position for certain elections where you're not going to win. This is a RCP state, which is like D plus something. Like, this isn't like a slight D. This is like a D. Like, you're not going to win mayor of New York. Like, that's not happening. So so it's most likely going to be a Democrat. The election, we now have ranked choice voting. So, you get to pick 5 people, like first rank, most, you win by tallies, but rank. So you have more power even if your winner doesn't win, right? Even if the person you prioritize doesn't win, you have, it ranks. Before some of the first past the post elections in the past, people usually make an effort to advocate to vote for one person, and when there's so many people in a primary for Democrats or right-leaning people, depending on who you're voting for, you want to make an effort to align the voting block or align or make some alliances and be aware that you are a catalyst for a specific person, because if you have too many people pushing similar policies, it leads to a little bit of infighting and you split up the vote. And that ends up being a big problem, and somebody who doesn't even have as much support as everybody else ends up winning because you split off the person who was slated to win by throwing in some other person who was like them. That's not good. You'd never want to do this. Gubernatorial, in every place where you see this done, you don't want this, right? And sometimes you can't prevent it. In this instance, that's something that happens with first past the post. We have this with ranked choice voting as well, but some strategies that you can implement when you're doing ranked choice voting as a voter is you don't have to vote for everyone. You don't have to use all your 5 choices, but you can prevent certain people from even getting your option, getting any of your choices, which is cool. The way that these attempts to try and have more power on who wins, this is being expressed right now on Eric Adams for mayoral, right? So Eric Adams is slated to win. My projection is he wins first round. Final mayor is going to be a Democrat. Adams versus maybe Garcia, Adams, Garcia, Wiley, or Yang. Yang can take Wiley. Yang can probably take, Yang and Wiley are like top to me, just because, right, so that's for mayor. All other people have bronze candidate. I did vote for Mano Laura, my first choice. I did put Abigail, then I did Jessica, and then I did, Dinowitz was one of the last because he's part of like a political dynasty. Like, he kind of, I did give him one of my top votes, like in the top 4 instead of the last, because Dinowitz is, when it comes to campaigning or for politically, well, I'm gonna get into it in the future, but basically I wanted there to be someone who's more reflective of the area than a white guy like Dinowitz. That's my view. But in general, I think Adams is gonna win, and there's a bunch of interesting stuff going on with like the idea that the efforts people are making to prevent him from winning. So let me explain that. In general, most people in the United States do identify as moderately conservative or Democrats, okay? So most people are like blue dogs. You do see a vocal minority though, and the vocal minority is what is used for, or is what most people think are the Democratic establishment, right? Or right? So the vocal minority people think are, people conflate Biden now with a Bernie Sanders. Totally different. Why? Is because you know many people are apolitical. They're not aware of much. I'm not an expert in politics, but it's obvious if you don't kind of pay attention to it as much as some other people how it's easy to conflate like the precision in their policies, in their positions, all that stuff. When it comes to Adams, one of the things that are being done, or potentially being done for Adams, is you can not even vote for someone for ranked choice. So what people are trying to do as the vocal minority for people like Eric Adams, who gets like the most of the electorate, right? He's a black police officer in a racially charged election or racially charged country right now, specifically around police brutality. He's gonna run into more black people who are somewhat conservative to win. He's gonna appeal to Hispanics. If you look at the general population of Democrats in general, most Democrats do identify as moderate or conservative. So when you just throw that to a place like New York, yeah, who do you think they're gonna choose? It's not a Wiley, right? She's equivalent to Sanders. It's not an AOC. AOC got that bump partially because of Bernie Sanders, because a lot of the Bernie bros, or the people who are Bernie supporters, when I mean Bernie bros, I mean gender neutral, so women as well. These were the people who were supporting Bernie Sanders, and that energy was the gas for AOC to take over Joe Crowley. Who was Joe Crowley? Joe Crowley was one of the top ranking Democrats in line to get House Speaker. Who y'all think voted for him? It's mostly conservative. It's mostly blue dogs, right? Bloomberg has decent support by black people. He did. If I'm not mistaken, he was pretty close to Bernie Sanders. Now, he wasn't better than Biden, but he was still better than Bernie Sanders. In general, most people, the reason I think he's gonna win is because he's the #1 slot to be someone who seems moderate enough to take in, to be reflective of most of the electorate. So it's inevitable for him to win first round. Wiley, she's viewed as too left. Yang, I'm over the whole Asian guy math number shtick. As a person who has people who are Asian in my family, I'm not gonna fall for that. The demographics that he appeals to are like 10 times, not 10 times. It's minimum. It's slower than that. But I mean, it's like Asians, right? Like he like the demographics that he accounts for are kind of more like a pop catalyst, unique group. You need a broader demographic in order to win elections. You can't win elections by a core group. Well, you would be able to, but that would depend on the amount of the population this group accounts for. Asians aren't a large percentage of New York. That's just not the case. So you are getting, there may be messaging around in the news or in lefty circles trying to inhibit Adams from winning, misframing some of his arguments to try and push. Man, people had an issue with Yang. They were pushing Yang now. Like lefties, they're all over the place. Actually, I'm not even going to go into that. Basically, what you're seeing people trying to push Wiley and Adams, or Wiley and Yang, and keep out Garcia and Adams. But people don't realize, like, again, you're not gonna get this major wave of like DSA overtaking the country, overtaking New York, because you do not have enough people who support you to do it. It doesn't matter what you do. It is statistically improbable for Eric Adams to not win, or not at least get top 2, because he accounts for most of the electorate. He's reflective of where most of the people stand. Most people, regardless of what you see online, who are Democrats, they don't want to stop police. They want to reanalyze the interaction between the public and the police, but they don't want to remove funding from them and disband the police. No, they don't want to do that. Those only the lefty people, the white kids on Twitter, and some of the more woke Afro-punk black girls with crusty sundresses. Like these are people who are. It's more like popped activism for them. It's kind of like a game, or it's kind of it's like a trend, right? It's more about like some elitism that you're somewhat informed, or not even somewhat informed, barely informed, and you kind of push this like idealistic, romanticized version of your ideas, but it's not realistic. This is why they have difficulties with incrementalism and all of that. That is why Eric Adams is most slated to win. I voted for Eric Adams, a black guy. He's a police officer, or ex-police officer captain, based off of the polling data, which is very important to look at. There's no way that he's not gonna get top 2. It's statistically improbable, as I said. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what your thoughts are on this. The numbers are there. Like, it's there. Check the numbers when it was Bernie Sanders and Biden. Check the demographic that happened with Buttigieg and all the people who ended up jumping right behind Biden, and see why Bernie lost. It got nothing to do with the deep state. It's just real. It's just reality. Like, comment, subscribe. GG.